Well, hey there. I'm Summoning Salt, and you might know me from my YouTube channel where I talk about speedrun world record histories. I've got a pretty big channel there, been doing it for years, but one thing you might not know about me is I'm a pretty huge San Jose Sharks fan, and I'm just a sports fan in general, but the Sharks are my favorite team. I grew up watching them. Some of my earliest memories are Joe Thornton getting traded to the team and Jonathan Chichu becoming like the best goal scorer on earth for a few years there, or really 1 year there. Um, and yeah, man, I've seen the team during their darkest days. I've seen them during their brightest days. I've seen them during the very mediocre, not interesting days in between. And I decided I wanted to start a YouTube channel to talk about it. So welcome to Summoning Sharks. This is going to be my YouTube channel where I talk about all sorts of things San Jose Sharks related. And the biggest piece of news by far is that the Sharks just had perhaps the greatest first round draft of any team in recent memory yesterday. So we're going to talk about that today. But I'm going to talk about all sorts of things on this channel. When there's news, I'm going to talk about that. I want to do recaps of games once those get going again in the fall. I'm not sure if I'm going to do like live streams or if I want to do videos or what I want to do. I have zero expectations for this channel. I don't know if anyone's going to care to subscribe or watch, but I want an outlet where I can talk about the Sharks. That's what I'm looking for, and that's all I really want out of this channel. So hopefully you can get some insight from my thoughts on the team. You can agree, you can disagree, you can whatever you want to do. I don't really care, but I just want to talk about the Sharks, and we're going to start by talking about the draft that was yesterday. That was unbelievable. So for those who don't know, the Sharks went into the draft yesterday and they had 3 first-round picks. They had number 2, they had number 9, and they had number 27. Those were their 3 picks. And the way it shook out, they took Ivar Stenberg with pick number 2. They took Keaton Verhoff with pick number 9. And then they traded up to pick 21 instead of 27, and they took defenseman Ryan Lynn. Now, the consensus around the league is that the Sharks just hit it out of the park with this draft, and that this was, again, one of the best drafts in recent memory by any team. And I absolutely agree. So 3 players here. You have Ivar Stenberg at number 2. And the only way the Sharks got that pick was they got very, very lucky, and they won the draft lottery, of course, to move up to number 2. If you're watching this channel, I would imagine you already know that. The Sharks went from 9 to 2 in the draft lottery. So once they had that pick, there was all this outside noise. Like, what are the Sharks going to do with this pick? Are they going to pick a defenseman? Are they going to take Stenberg? Are they going to trade it? And there was just all this chatter going back and forth and back and forth. And the whole time, the big debate of all those, was it going to be the defenseman Chase Reed or is it going to be the winger Ivar Stenberg? And I wanted Stenberg all along. And I would say the majority of the Sharks fan base agreed with that. But all the while, we were getting like article after article after article of all these mock drafts from people in the know. And they were all saying Chase Reed. Like, oh, the Sharks are going to pick a defenseman. They have to pick a defenseman. That's what they need. And it made sense because, look, the Sharks have Celebrini. They have Smith. They have Misa. They have Chernyshov. They have Musty. They had Eklund. So it made sense that, like, yeah, maybe they're going to go after a defenseman here because they're defensive, especially on the right side. They're very weak in their prospect pool. But Greer over and over said, we're going to take the best player available. We're going to take the best player available, best player available, best player available. And to be fair, he's going to say that no matter what because you don't want to draft a defenseman and then have your rationale be, well, we really needed a defenseman, so we just took the best one available, even if he wasn't the best player on the board. Like, of course, you're not going to say that if you're a GM. It's going to make whoever you pick feel terrible. So, I mean, I think, to be totally honest with you, either way, I think Greer's going to say he's going to take the best player available. But in the end, he did choose Stenberg. He went with the winger. And I think, obviously, he probably made that decision before trading William Eklund. But yeah, it was just really weird as a fan of the team to be like, I hope they take Stenberg. I think that makes the most sense. But after seeing all these articles from like people in the industry saying, it's going to be Chase Reed. It has to be the right shot defenseman. I kind of came around to the idea that even if it ends up being Reed, I'm going to have, we got to put our faith in Greer. He knows what he's doing. GM, MG, big money Mike, whatever you want to say. He usually knows what he's doing, so let's put our faith that if he gets Chase Reed, maybe he'll turn into a number one defenseman, and that would be even more valuable than whatever Stenberg could be. But yeah, no, in the end, Greer and his guys, they like Stenberg, and that's who they picked. And the writing was kind of on the wall, obviously, once they traded Eklund. I was still a little afraid that maybe he just didn't like Eklund that much, and he was still planning on taking Chase Reed at number 2. But as it turned out, Chase Reed was not the consensus number 1 defenseman. And I think that's what the difference is. If there was a consensus number 1 defenseman, even if it wasn't like a Matthew Schaefer type, but closer to Matthew Schaefer, like Owen Power maybe in his draft year, someone like that, where it's like, this guy's clearly the best defenseman in the draft, I think then it would have been a little harder to pick in my mind, and maybe I would have gone with the defenseman. But the problem is that Stenberg was like very clearly going to be the best forward available. And although everyone, like a lot of people, I guess I should say, kind of agreed, like, yeah, Reed is probably the best defenseman, that was clearly not the consensus, because let's see, who went before him? Daxon Rudolph went before him. Albert Smits went before him. Carson Karls went before him. So he ended up being the 4th defenseman picked. So all that just to say, I'm really happy Greer stuck to his guns, picked Stenberg. I think that's kind of a bold move when everyone in the fucking industry is saying, take Chase Reed. They're going to take Reed. They need a defense. I think that's really cool that he stuck with his guts and went with his gut, I should say. Stuck with his guns, went with his gut, and took the winger, Ivar Stenberg. So great pick at number 2. Number 9, that was the pick they got for William Eklund, and everyone in the world who cared about the draft was pretty confident they were going to go with a defenseman. The question was just who was going to be available to them at number 9. And what was crazy was watching the draft, just watching Chase Reed. Vancouver didn't pick him at 3. Buffalo didn't pick him at 4. New York didn't pick him at 5. And he just kept falling and falling and falling. And with each pick, I was like, Big Money Mike, pick up the phone. Get your guy. Make some calls. Package B-Stat and 27 and 9 to move up to 5 or to move up to 6 or move up, whatever. Do what you have to do. We have pieces. But obviously he did not do that in the end. In the end, Seattle took him at number 7. And once Winnipeg took Vigo Bjork at number 8, it was clear we're getting a defenseman. We're getting a really good one. We're getting Keaton Verhoff. What's crazy, guys, is going into this draft, Keaton Verhoff and Ivar Stenberg were 2 of the top picks. They would have been 2 of the top mock draft picks, like going into this past season. Not number 1 and number 2, but probably both top 5 picks for sure. The fact that we got both of them, just insane. Verhoff, of course, he is a right shot defenseman. He played in college this year. He had a little bit of a disappointing year, which is why he fell from being a top 3 pick down to number 9. But I would say in general, he wasn't mocked to go as low as 9 for the most part. We got pretty good value there. And I was actually I put out a mock draft the morning of the draft, and I said, I think some defenseman is going to fall to the Sharks, and I think if one of them is going to fall, I think Verhoff might make the most sense because Albert Smits is really NHL ready and Karls and Reed have so much hype about them. I think if one of them is going to fall, it would be Verhoff, and turns out I was right. So you can check out my Twitter if you want to see the receipts on that. Go to Summoning Sports or Summoning Sharks. That's my Twitter account now for the Sharks account here. But anyway, so yeah, Verhoff fell, and it's huge, man. We have a really, really, really good right-hand defenseman prospect. I would say he is probably a similar quality prospect to Sam Dickinson, maybe slightly higher, and he's a right shot defenseman, which is huge. It's a massive place of organizational need. So yeah, 2 great draft picks, and then obviously the draft keeps going, go through the teens, nothing too notable is happening, and then all of a sudden we get a trade announcement at number 21, and sure enough, Big Money Mike did pick up the phone, and he traded up from 27 to 21, and we gave up a couple of later draft picks to do that. And we did it to select yet another right shot defenseman, Ryan Lynn. Ryan Lynn was also very highly thought of going into this into his draft year. You could argue he had a little bit of a disappointing draft year as well. It's not like his numbers were down. It's just that he played in the CHL and his numbers didn't take much of a leap forward. But in general, his team, I think, was quite a bit worse this year than last year, so that could be part of the problem. But obviously with the defensemen anyway, production isn't everything. You got to see how they develop on the defensive side too, because that's very important to the Sharks going forward. Like, we're going to have a lot of firepower here, but can we not be 28th in the NHL in goals against? That's going to be huge. But Ryan Lynn, just another fantastic value pick. I think this guy easily could have gone like 12th, 13th, 14th, especially if there was a run on defenseman early, which there kind of was. But yeah, he dropped all the way to 21 and we got him. And all of a sudden, the right side of our prospect pool, which was literally just Eric Polkamp. Now we have Eric Polkamp, but we also have Ryan Lynn and Keaton Verhoff. Our defense is looking very solid, and in addition to that, we got Ivar Stenberg. It's silly, man. It's kind of crazy how well this draft went. I don't know what I was expecting going into it. I figured we'd get Stenberg, and I was hoping for a good defenseman, and then I didn't even really care that much who we got at 27. But the fact that it ended up being the three guys that we got, all really highly thought of. We have an amazing winger who's probably going to be point per game, and a couple defensemen. If one of those two guys hits, if Verhoff or Lynn hits, and I think they both have a pretty good chance of being really good, like half point per game players and solid defensively. If one of those guys hits, just enormous draft, absolutely enormous draft, and we got two chances at it there. So just an amazing draft. What I want to show you guys next, I'm putting it up on screen. These are our first round picks from the last 4 years, 2023 through 2026. I would say 23 through 25 were kind of the rebuild years. And then this year we just got a little bit lucky in moving up to 2, and then we traded Eklund, so we got 9. It was a weird year, but I'm going to lump them all together here. And yeah, here are Mike Greer's first round picks. Not counting the first year when he traded back, and it wasn't even his team until the draft anyway. We got Will Smith at 4, Quentin Musty, Macklin Celebrini, Sam Dickinson. I'm putting Chernyshov on here because he missed the first round by 1 pick, so close enough. Michael Misa, Joshua Ravensbergen, Ivar Stenberg, Keaton Verhoff, and Ryan Lynn. That is a fucking group right there, man. Some of these guys are already being stars in the NHL. Smith and Celebrini. Misa and Dickinson are on their way. Chernyshov is probably somewhere in between a star and someone who's on their way to being a star. He's already really good, and he's probably going to be definitely a top 6 winger, maybe a first-line winger. And then in addition to all that, we got Quentin Musty. I don't know if he's going to turn into anything substantial at this point. He probably needs to be in the top 6 to be a solid NHLer, and I don't know if the production's going to be there in the professional level, but we'll see. Ravensbergen, potential goalie of the future if Askarov doesn't work out. And then in addition to that, we just drafted Stenberg, Verhoff, and Lynn. It's crazy, man. Just amazing. You know, people say that Greer's gotten lucky with the lottery balls and whatever, and yes, he has gotten lucky. It was very lucky to get the number 1 pick in 2024, and it was very lucky to stay at number 2 in 2025, and it was very lucky to move up to number 2 in 2026. Like, that's all very true. But I think he has done a really good job of not overthinking things at the top of the draft. We're not reaching for a Daxon Rudolph at 4. We're picking Will Smith at 4. And I think, he's looking like a better pick than Matvei Michkov, which a lot of people wanted us to pick that year. Greer went with the more well-rounded player, and so far it's paying off really well. Celebrini was a slam dunk pick, no question there. Dickinson was a great pick, and he traded up to get Dickinson. Chernyshov, he identified Chernyshov as being worth more than most GMs valued him because of the sunburn incident, sunburn gate. Misa, there was so much noise around Frundell, and to be fair, Frundell probably would have been a good pick too, but Misa, super good. Ravensbergen, no one else was picking up on this guy, and he dropped, and Greer said, we already have Askarov, but screw it, let's take Ravensbergen too. And then Stenberg is a great pick. Verhoff and Lynn, these are not just like the most obvious, like, of course, who else would you pick there picks. These are just common sense, smart, sensible draft picks. It's not, most of these weren't crazy reaches or anything, but it's just solid, sensible drafting, and I think Greer deserves a lot of credit for that. Next thing I created here was, what is our lineup going to look like for the 26-27 season? We still have a long ways to go until this is definite, but since we drafted who we drafted, the only one of those three that's probably going to be in the NHL next year is Stenberg. But he's probably good enough to play on the second line right away. Maybe the third line if they don't want to give him that many minutes. I don't know. But the way I'm seeing our lineup right now for forward, I think we're just going to stick with the Smith, Celebrini, Chernyshov line. I don't know why we would mess with that right now. I don't know if putting Stenberg on the first line right away is going to make the most sense. I think just put him on the second line, and I think you have Misa and Graf. Misa's your 2C, and Graf is a very, very responsible 200-foot player. So I know that's a young second line, but I think it's a good second line. I think that's a second line you're going to win some games with right now. I know there are people who would probably want Toffoli on the second line instead of Graf. And I think if this is the Tyler Toffoli of 2 years ago, I would agree. But to be totally honest, I think Toffoli's just going to slow down the second line right now if we put him there instead of Graf. And I think Graf is a more responsible player than Toffoli. I don't know if he's as good at getting in the right spot on the right time and ripping shots as Toffoli, but I think Graf at this moment belongs in the second line with Misa and Stenberg. And that leaves a third line of Sherwood, Wenberg, and Toffoli. And honestly, that's a pretty badass third line. That's a heavy, grinding line that can still score some goals. I really like that third line. And then our fourth line, there's a lot of ways this could still go. Ostapchuk just signed a contract, so he's probably going to be our 4C for the foreseeable future. He probably needs some more offense to really be like a solid 4C. If he can start putting up like 20 points a year, then he's going to be just a great fourth line center. But as it stands right now, he's the 4C. And Delandria just signed a contract, so he's probably playing. Gaudette, it's really hard to imagine him not having a prominent role on the team next year. And that leaves out Barclay Goodrow, but I don't know where Goodrow fits in. He could be our 13th forward maybe, but it's hard to imagine taking out one of those guys on the fourth line to play Goodrow. So I don't know how that's going to work out, but I don't see him making the bottom six right now. But we'll see. We know how Warsofsky and every other coach loves Goodrow, so I'm sure he'll be he'll be put in the lineup somehow. And then on defense next year is still going to be pretty rough, I think. Because, again, Verhoff and Lynn, these are guys that are going to start helping probably 2-3 years down the road, and that's just going to be starting to help. So Orlov's still going to be probably on the first pair, which is not ideal, but it is what it is. We're going to have to sign another guy, I think, to play on the right side. The odds that Polkamp is going to be ready for big minutes on the right side in the NHL, I think, is pretty slim. It's not impossible, but I know that on the San Jose Hockey Now podcast with Shang and Zubair and Keegan Halfwall Hockey and Dan Boyle, the consensus over there is that one of Cagnoni or Polkamp is going to make the NHL next year. And my money would be on Cags just because he's been there before and he's been great in the AHL. I could see maybe wanting Polkamp to get a little bit more pro experience first. So the way I see it right now, on the left, I think it'll be Orlov, Dickinson, Cagnoni. And on the right, Kesselring, Mukhamadullin, and then I think we're going to sign a free agent to go on the right side too. And I think we're going to use Desharnais as more of like the seventh defenseman sort of guy. I have a feeling he's going to be back. I just don't know if his role is going to be quite as prominent as it was last year. I think we'd probably rather try to upgrade that right side with some sort of free agent because we have the money, we have the room to do it. And then our goalies are probably just going to run back Ned and Askarov, which that could be our weakest point next year. I won't go into a big explanation of this right now, but I think Askarov was very disappointing last year, and I feel like, yes, he's a rookie, and that's fine, but it's going to have to get better, because he let in a lot of soft goals last year, so we're going to need to see improvement from him. But that's how I see the lineup shaping up next year. And just for fun, I made this too. This is a future lineup. This is like the 2029 Sharks lineup. We got, I think the first line in a few years, we're going to have like Smith, Celebrini, Stenberg on the top. Second line, Misa, Chernyshov, and a free agent. One thing I have to point out right now, a lot of people who I think are newer to hockey don't quite understand how teams are built and think that if you're rebuilding, you have to build every single position of your team, forward, defense, both goalies. All of them have to come through the draft. And that's just not true, and that's never been true. There's never been a team that's been built, entirely through the draft. There will be free agents. There will be trades. There will be a whole bunch of different ways we're building this team. It's not just going to be our draft picks because they're not all going to hit, man. If we're building a team with just our draft picks, it's not going to work out that well. So I think we're going to probably have to get one free agent or trade winger at some point in the next few years. And I think we're probably going to need to fill out the bottom six with another free agent or trade. Cardwell might be a little bit of a reach to be an NHL mainstay. He hasn't really shown that thus far in his career, but I think it's possible. So I put him in as a fourth line winger. And Beestet, again, we'll see if he ends up being the 3C of the future. Very much still possible, but he probably needs to take a step next year for that to be a reality. And then all of a sudden, our defense is looking a little bit more solved. Imagine Sam Dickinson and Luca Cagnoni a few years from now. And then Verhoff will be on the right. We'll probably need some more help on the right, get someone through free agency or a trade. And then I think that the odds in Ryan Lynn at least being a third pairing defenseman, I think is pretty good. Again, no guarantees. These guys are both going to be, 22-minute a night stalwarts in the lineup. But I think there's a pretty good chance that one of them will really hit at least. And hopefully both of them can at least be NHLers. But yeah, that would kind of be ideal for our defense working out. Will Polkamp make it? We'll see. Will some of these other guys make it that we've drafted, like Solon Wallenius, Matthias Havlid? Who knows? We'll see. But that's the way I see it right now. And then Ravensburgen and Askarov, probably the most likely candidates to be our goalies right now. We just drafted a goalie a few minutes ago, Brady Noling. We'll see if he makes it. Or we'll see if we have to trade or sign a goalie in a few years to see how our guys work out. But yeah, that's all I got for now. Just to sum it up, amazing draft. Can't believe how well it worked out. Hard to believe. And I am just even more excited to watch the Sharks again in a few months. And I'm really excited to start growing this channel. So you can let me know down below what sort of things you want to see me talk about, what topics you want to explore. I'd love to talk about all sorts of things Sharks. So thanks for watching, guys, and I'll be back with more soon.